Hi, producer Callie here. Just coming in to say this podcast episode did not quite go where we planned. We spent so long deeping the Beth's Dead podcast that we're actually going to get to the should I give my job up so that I can become an ADHD entrepreneur episode next week. So look forward to that one. We will deep dive that. Send in your questions, fthemfish@gmail.com. And in the meantime, enjoy this deep dive into Beth's Dead, the parasocial relationship exploration with some podcast hosts and what that meant. And importantly, why is that relevant for neurodivergence? Have a little listen. Let us know your thoughts. And thank you to everybody who sent in their questions, their comments, their conspiracy theories. Bloody loved it. This was a fun episode to go through. And really want to hear what you think.
They give a load of validation.
God, we actually had no tech issues. Like, we could hear each other immediately. No tech issues. What?
I mean, I had tech issues setting up this end.
Oh,
but once I got on, everything was fine.
Amazing. All right. Hello, and welcome to F Them Fish, AuDHD for Grownups with your neurodivergent besties. That is me, Callie Elward-Barrett, and the one, only, stunningly beautiful co-host,
Jayne Gurton.
I'm going to try and make that bigger.
Yeah. Every single week I'm living for this.
Every time I'm going to try and get it bigger. And we are here to talk about all things neurodivergent, where it's work, that is life, that is relationships, overwhelm, weird brain stuff, and hopefully the things that nobody else really talks about or is properly explained. So if that is your jam, stick around. But we must warn you, we do swear a little bit.
Sometimes it slips out. We just can't help it when we get excited.
I got excited. All right. Well, welcome, neurodivergent besties. Welcome, neurokin.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone this week? How are you this week, Callie?
I am bloody marvellous.
Oh, that's good.
I am, for the first time in a very long time, remembered to take my second daily dose of medication.
Where's the little applause buttons when we need it?
Thank you. Oh, hang on.
Well deserved.
Thank you so much. Thanks so
much. That
is
is great.
Also, had a little bit of a reorganisation of the nook. So I'm loving this. This feels comfortable, to be fair. I don't feel like I'm just a head now, so that's good.
Well, that's good. Heads and bodies are all good too.
Although, actually, bit of listener feedback maybe. Listeners, is my head too small compared to Jayne? Do I need to actually get a little closer? We could probably
I feel
do that.
like that's going to imply, we are very different sized people.
Oh, I didn't even think.
Your head is a lot smaller than mine.
No, it's because I'm way further back from the screen.
I'm in close up with a bright light on me.
That is true.
Am I in the spotlight more than Callie? Is that the question?
That is the question. Actually, I'm kind of the same size as Overthinktopus over here now, who I'm loving, by the way. Podcat saw me start getting the Nook ready for recording and was like, stand by, everyone. I'm about to go on show. It's about to be my time. I don't know where she's gone now. She's fucked off somewhere. But yeah, so Overthinktopus is here along with the
disco balls. I couldn't help but notice them. They look amazing.
Loving them sick. So bought them. Don't really have a plan for what I'm going to do with them, but I figured they'd make the look look awesome. The look look awesome. That's going to be a vocal stim for a while now.
Yeah.
Look.
It gives a lot of visual excitement for me, so thank you very much.
If this is your first time with us, welcome. We're very happy to have you, and we would love you to go back and listen. This is, episode 46, I think, now.
I can't keep count. I don't know numbers.
Oh, my God.
But also, we dropped some homework last week. That's why I was saying go back and listen. We don't often drop homework listers, let's be honest.
It's the first time, I think.
Yeah, we're not good at homework. We are neurodivergent.
Yeah.
But we dropped homework for this one because we wanted to know from you all if you have tips, ideas, stories, or whatever about being an entrepreneur as a neurodivergent person. And then completely irrelevantly, is that a word?
Yes, it is now. Yeah.
Yeah, completely irrelevantly, we gave out homework to listen to the podcast Beth's Dead.
Or technically I gave it out because you hadn't listened to either.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited. We've had a number of questions and comments and everything else. And so very excited to get into all of that. So Beth's Dead then is a podcast. I had listened to it because, oh my God, I haven't told you this one. I haven't told you this. So I thought I had heard it on the Shameless podcast with Mitch and Zara. They're brilliant Australian girls, smart people who love dumb stuff. I think I've possibly mentioned that before, but listen to that on there. I thought, made tech guy listen to it. He doesn't like listening to podcasts very much. It's not his preferred medium. So he listened to a couple with me, and then it was like, I don't think I want to listen to anymore.
Really?
I said, look, I can listen to the rest of it if you don't. He said, yeah, could you just tell me what happens? Because I'm invested in what happens, but I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Fair enough.
I love him. But yeah, so I binged it. Anyway, turns out I messaged the Shameless girls and I was like, oh my God, so can we all agree? I will tell you that bit later. I'm not going to drop too many spoilers just yet. Listen to it because of your reco. Awesome. Really glad I did. Can't wait for the Netflix series. And I got a response almost straight away, which I was really surprised at. And,
oh my gosh.
From Mitch just responding saying, yeah, that wasn't us. We haven't talked about it. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was so sure it was Zara. I dropped it as a reco. And then I'm like thinking, well, what do I listen to? So I have my ones on repeat that I listen to, which is Shameless, Luana, which is a British one, and My Therapist Ghosted Me, which is two Irish comedians. Brilliant. Love them. Joanna McNally, who is currently in Australia. But yeah, so I'm like, oh my God, I went back and I'm re-listening to all of the episodes. Tried using AI. I was like, listen to this episode. Tell me. It was like, I can't listen to episodes. It was stupid. And I was like, why can't I find people's transcripts? I was just like...
You went into the weirdest deep dive about this.
Oh
Maybe
God.
someone just recommended it to you.
No, it was... I remember listening to the conversation and it was somebody I really like. I like the things they like often, which is why I thought it was a Shameless one.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was Joanna McNally on My Therapist Ghosted Me.
Well, Joanna McNally, if it was you, thank you for the reco. We're going to talk about it now.
Right. And then next episode of Shameless is them interviewing or doing a podcast with Joanna McNally. I was just like, oh God, this is so... And so I listened to that thinking at any minute now they might say, anyway, this complete dumbass listener messaged us as if she was our best mate and starts going, anyway, so thanks for the reco. And we didn't. And she reckons it was you. And then I was just waiting for Joanna McNally to go, well, it wasn't fucking me.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to get bad. Didn't get mentioned because why would it?
They give a load of validation.
Beth Stead is a podcast all about two podcast hosts, all of the details of which have immediately left my mind, even though I just checked them before I came back in.
So Elizabeth and Andy, they
Thank
hosted
you.
a podcast.
Husband and wife duo. And they're also writers. Keep that point for later. They are screenwriters. And anyway, they hosted a podcast and apparently they had somebody call in or, emailing in, thank you, with this story. Anyway, that person eventually, trigger warning for what is coming on this, allegedly took their own life. And the podcast is all about what actually happens after that. If you don't want to hear spoilers, because we are going to spoil the shit out of this podcast. And if you haven't listened to it yet, you do not want spoilers. Okay? If you think you might listen to this podcast, you do not want spoilers. All right?
Unless you are tech guy and you're not going to listen to it.
Yeah, if you're not going to listen to it, stay with us. If you've already listened to it, one of them, I'd say we've had a number of people calling. Why do I keep thinking people call?
Let's go back to the dial-ups.
Back to that mobile device in our pockets.
We're on the line.
But yeah, so, all right, let's get into it.
Okay, so I want to give a little bit more context to the story. Let's spoil some stuff now. I binged the whole thing in this past week, and Andy and Elizabeth give this whole story, and they have another journalist with them. I want to say Amy. I think that's wrong. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's Monica.
Monica. Where did Amy come from? Who knows? So Monica is like a third-party impartial journalist that sits with them through this whole series, and it takes place over a year where they deep dive into what happened to Andy and Elizabeth.
Yep.
And go through like a timeline of the emails. And what comes out is there is a plethora of people that have been emailing their podcast, and they were responding. So Elizabeth was initially the one responding to all the emails and reading everything, and Andy was kind of off in funland doing music and editing things, but not doing the admin side of it. So Elizabeth took on all of the admin side, And so she was responding to people, and it wasn't abnormal that people were emailing in. So she started engaging with these people, and there were people, I think Natasha was one of the people that's mentioned, and is her partner or something.
Yeah,
then
her
this
husband,
main
yeah.
person, Beth, and then a few other people come
Beth's
into it.
brother comes into
Beth's
it
brother comes into it.
after Beth's alleged.
Yes.
Yeah.
So essentially what happens in a very short nutshell is Beth forms a relationship with the podcast host, Elizabeth, without Andy knowing, about basically just, this is my life and everything's hard. And I made a decision when I was younger, and I took lots of photos because I was beautiful and they were explicit photos, and now it's haunting me, and I've lost my fiance from it, and my life has unraveled because these photos are out there and I can't take them back and I don't know what to do. Can you help me?
Yeah,
And
which
so-
was very much in line with the type of questions they used to
Yes.
take on their podcast. It was very similar to like something like Luana or whatever, where people message in and they're like, "Ma, look at this shit! Oh God, help!"
Yes.
You know, and they give completely unqualified advice, kind of like us. Yeah,
Yeah. So they read the question out on the podcast and were like, what do we do about this? Or what should Beth do about it? Because she can't take the photos down. People are thinking poorly, et cetera, et cetera. That basically kept going. The story kept getting deeper and deeper.
and it was all about her fiance's family, because he had known about it allegedly, right? All the way from the very get-go. He had known about it. She'd been on, and she's only like 20 or so at this point, right? She's very young.
22 or something.
So she was 18 when the photos were done, and the photos end up just being, they're not even topless. It's lingerie.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically it gets quite complicated. Elizabeth forms a relationship with this person, Beth, and she starts to care about this person. Beth sends them $1,000 as a donation to say, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I love your podcast. And then she kind of goes off the deep end, I would say. Beth goes off the deep end.
Yeah.
And starts saying really strange and really manipulative things.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth, the host, having formed a relationship with this person, Beth,
And it's a parasocial relationship, right? So that's
Exactly.
important. Yeah.
which is, how would you describe a parasocial
So a
relationship?
parasocial relationship is where it's usually with a public figure, or somebody like us, honestly, not big, don't have to be famous, but it's somebody you don't actually know. You know them through a medium like their social media or like a podcast or because they're famous, and you think that you have a relationship with them, or you develop a relationship with that persona that they choose to put out. And so there's a level of expectation and dependency that can form
Yes.
in a parasocial relationship.
Yeah. So that's basically what's happened, although they are communicating. So it's gone from parasocial to what the host Elizabeth then thinks is a real relationship, and she's supporting this person, Beth.
Yeah, and she says she feels a big sense of responsibility to Beth
Yes.
because there's whole things about body image, and she has been through so Elizabeth has been through that herself. And so she is like, I can be a mentor for this person here. She goes on to say at the end, obviously, that she actually formed a parasocial relationship back
Yes.
with. So it was a
With this
dual
person, Beth.
parasocial relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, what happens is Beth completes suicide.
Yeah.
And they get an email from Beth's brother to say, I just want to let you know that 2 days ago, Beth took her own life. And I can't remember any other details, but essentially it was devastating. And
Tell me
Elizabeth-
what your relationship is. You know,
Yes,
why did
yeah.
she send you $1,000? It all really escalates, et cetera, et cetera.
At
Yeah.
the start, it was just basic, though, of like, I want to let you know because you obviously had a relationship with her. And it was all like, feel sad. And Elizabeth was devastated and wanted to do stuff for the family. And then things started to get really, really strange very quickly.
What are your thoughts right now? What are you thinking about that podcast? What is your belief about the truth in
Hang on, I
regards
feel like
to
we
this
should actually
podcast?
tell them what, like, the truth
Oh,
is.
we didn't do that.
There was never a person called Beth. It was one person who was playing a bunch of different characters from different email addresses and names, and they completely played
Catfished.
the hosts.
Yeah, they
They
catfished the
catfished the
hosts. And all the way through this podcast, which is Armchair Expert, Monica Padman, Armchair Expert, 10 episodes, right? So it's fairly contained. You know, you kind of see, why are they being so flippant about it? Like the first couple of episodes, they've been a bit flippant. In the first couple of episodes, I was like, I really hope this gets better because it's not very good.
Me too.
And it does. By about the third one, it gets a bit better. But, you know, they kind of play up that there's a little bit of a, you know, Andy's saying, but you never told me any of this when it was happening. And they're kind of playing out that this is the first time they've gone back and reread, and they find a lot of emails as they go. And they're like, oh, I actually said that? Oh, my God. What are your thoughts right now? What do you think? Where do you think the lies are? Where do you think the truth is?
My thoughts are they are clearly good storytellers, and they've clearly put together a good podcast because it was gripping, and there were parts where I was like, oh, gosh. But I didn't believe any of it from the start.
Yeah.
From like the first emails of Beth, I thought exactly the same as you, which was, I've seen this before with people that are emotional vampires who just play on all of the things, and a lot of them have had that neurodivergent oversharing kind of quality. So I'm listening to the emails that they're reading about Beth in the first couple of episodes going, I wouldn't be engaging. What are they doing? Why are they doing this?
Yeah,
I get how it happened.
Yeah, and this is, you know, stupid, right? Like you are crossing every boundary as even us as baby little podcast hosts with minimal audience, all 9 or so of them now. We know there are certain things, and I have had because first 30 episodes were obviously with my previous host. I have had some incredibly emotional, really like emails sent to me where I've had some flares of warning come on, right? Because I'm like, this person needs help in a way that I can't give them.
Yeah.
And that's what I've gone back and said. Thank you so much. I love that you've said this. Who's your network? Do you have people around you? Do you have a village? Do you have a support people? Can I recommend that you maybe speak to some people, right? And I send them resources. So that's what I've done with some people. And I could not be more respectful of the fact, but I don't want to fail them. I don't want to put myself in a position where somebody actually needs much more than I can give them. And by reaching out to me, they're then not getting it. If I do it the wrong way, I'm suggesting that I'm giving them enough. So yes, there are all sorts of rules that aren't rules, but, you know, just common sense things, I think, that aren't done.
Yeah.
But by the end of the podcast, so what do you believe is the truth of the Beth Stead thing? So do you think like this guy, so they went through this whole thing. It was supposed to be some professor who was
they locked it all down by IP addresses, and they'd found what house they'd all come from, and they thought it was their dad in that household who was a well-regarded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a some sort of behavioral expert and all that type of thing. Yeah.
So this for years had thought that this person was out in the world and doing these things and controlling people, and they'd built up so much around who they thought this person was. And then apparently through the course of the investigation and through contacting this person,
because they arranged to call him, right?
Yes.
And he agreed. Yeah.
I got frustrated as shit with that episode where they spent the entire episode talking about how do we phrase it and what do we do and how do we do it. All I kept thinking was it's being so built up in your heads, all of you. And it has been for so long, and I can understand if you've been in that, but Monica hasn't.
But Monica is used to dealing with addictions on her thing. So she's coming at it almost from a social work kind of perspective, which is absolutely telling the person who used to do kind of caseworky youth work stuff what you do, right? You overthink every possible thing just in case. So, you know, you make sure that you're not doing harm.
I mean, my social work brain from the start was going, boundaries. What are you doing?
Boundaries.
And Monica with it, I was like, why aren't you putting boundaries in with it? Like, she'd formed a relationship with him, and I think it kind
100%.
of undermined the whole approach, potentially.
So then the final episode, episode 10, they call him, and it actually ends up being the son, right? That's what they're saying. Now, all over Reddit, all over everything else is all these, this is bullshit, it wasn't the son, the dad has forced the son to step in for him, you know, and the son was apparently had a drug addiction, blah, 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 all this sort of thing, right? So I haven't gone into the Reddit threads, but I've been Googling because I have thoughts. Do you believe this ever happened?
I'm not sure.
I don't. I absolutely do not believe it ever happened. I think the whole thing is a script. that they have done, and it will come out as a Netflix story. I think it's an interesting thing into parasocial relationships. I used to do improv at one point, because of course I did. At one point, I used to be paid to do murder mystery nights. All right. So you would get the script. It was all improv. I say script. You basically have a character outline and what the plot line is, right? And then you have to improv the whole night, and you have dinner with a bunch of strangers. And, you know, there's like 8 or 10 of you in the crew. And then people are coming up and they're, you know, grilling you, and they're all trying to find out who's dead and blah, blah, or sorry, who was the murderer and stuff like that, right? So much fun. Highly recommend. This whole thing me felt like that. So I will caveat that and say for the first 3 episodes, I think 3 or 4, I was like, okay, well, this is going somewhere I didn't expect it to go about being a man. I thought, like, I reckon it's a woman. I don't think a man would say these sorts of things. So I think it's a woman that has written in. We thought, like you, it's not real. It's somebody like being bullshit from the beginning. And then it got to the episode of, I think we should call him, I think this, that, and the other. And all those little niggly bits that had been beaten out of rhythm for me of going, it's not real. This isn't real. These are all things that I'd been giving them the benefit of the doubt on, and just being like, no, it's American. Maybe they're just being a little bit overhamming it because American audience and American like footage style often tends to be like that. And then there was the episode about, we need to call him. Oh my God. And I was like, holy shit, this sounds like exactly the dialogue I used to have when I was hamming it up as being a, you know, I want you to believe I'm the murderer, even though I know I wasn't. Or, you know, I was the murderer, so I'm going to be so nice and naive and everything else so that you think I wasn't. You know, like it literally read like that. The whole thing sounded like that. So at that point, I was listening to the rest of it just going, this isn't true. This is short. And so that's what I wrote to Shameless Girls. I was like, so we all agreed this never happened, right?
Yeah.
Like literally was what I wrote. Like, thanks to the reco, brilliant. We all agree it never happened, right? Because what I'm seeing online is everybody going, oh, we believe it happened. But like, we just think that something's fake, something's off. And I'm like, never fucking happened. Never.
I reckon it did happen.
No.
But I might be biased because I had the weirdest Matrix moment listening to this, and I didn't want to text you about it to tell you because I knew that we'd be talking. Episode 7, I think it is, they call in an expert. Do you remember this?
Yes. She was real. She was real.
I know her.
Yeah, she is very real. That expert, I was listening to her go and listen to the difference in speech patterns and the difference in what her focus
she's Australian.
is. Yeah, but listen to everything about her. She was real. And I was listening to her going, does she know? Or have they actually?
That's the thing. Like, I used to work with her. And so
amazing.
I listened to it, but as I was listening to it, I had this real like Matrix moment of, sorry, what am I listening to? Where am I? Where am I working? And I got so confused because I thought this all feels very fake until that happened.
Yeah,
and because I know
moment.
her,
yeah,
I kind of went, okay, I have more trust in the whole thing now, but I think that's my bias.
So I did the same thing. So then the question for me was, but does she know this isn't real? And I'm listening to her go, nope, she believes this is real. She absolutely believes this is real.
She does. So I wonder if they like showed her evidence because she's an academic. So my thought was, she's an academic. She's getting asked for an expert opinion. Potentially they gave her more than what we've seen. I don't know.
Well, they did say at the end there was a load more in those emails than what they talked about, right? I genuinely do. So it's described as, it says, is Beth's Dead a true story? Beth's Dead is a limited true crime and mystery series that takes a look at what happens when parasocial relationships go terribly wrong. I do not believe that the experience as they described it is true. I think it might come out and it might be, this was actually based on a number of different things that we pieced together to create one story, right? So everything it's based on is true and happened, but not this exact story. I believe the person they called is not the person because there are a number of things that just did not ring real. Right? I'm an ex-cop. So this whole thing about they brought the police in and the police went and gave them a warning and this, that and the other, right? If they had done, it had gone to the level.
They didn't go to the police. They went to a private detective, didn't they?
No, they called the police as well. So a detective went. So there was a private investigator, but who said, yep, it's definitely them and it's definitely the dad. Yeah. You know, the dad has got this prior. They've got these things that the dad has done previously. There's these allegations. There's all these things the dad has done, right? The double spacing after a period in the when you write, okay? Like, nobody does that. No 19-year-old boy is doing that. Shut up, right? Which is how old he was supposed to be at the time, was 19, I believe. I may have got that slightly wrong. He's university age at oldest. He's not double spacing. Shut up. Like, after periods. So there's all these things, right? And that's what a lot of the online thing is. It's not the sun. It can't have been, because all of these things. And then the way the sun conveniently loud. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of sympathy for addiction, and those things that were talked about do happen. Like, you know, if you have had addiction, you do have the memory loss and all those sorts of things. The way it was, a lot of things around how the sentences were constructed. I used to do like this sort of behavioral analysis and stuff like that in previous roles. None of those patterns of speech, you know, so many of them were utter bullshit, like utter bullshit. And I was just listening to it going, this is as if I am a behavioral flipping, what used to be the body language analysis. I'm studying that for the first time at university, and I've got a case study. And or I'm taking part in a role play around this, and So anyway, I'm saying it. I don't think it happened. I think it is utter bullshit.
I think they told a good story, and
Brilliant
maybe
story.
potentially caught on a little bit of the AuDHD need for details, and therefore we haven't seen everything, and we don't know for sure.
And the pattern recognition.
I
had a cha-chink moment where something fell into place in the map. So I think things like this actually have happened, and it's probably a composite of multiple things that happened that they have now presented as a true story. Because also, they would get sued with this. They would absolutely get sued. No, if it was real, they would get sued, because they have put it out there. The
end is real, and he's agreed to it.
No, because the dad, like, you know what the internet's like. The internet can dox the shit out of it, right? They will find this dad within 7.5 minutes if it's real, and he will get doxed, and they will get sued. And this apparently happened a number of years ago. Convenient. Have a look at those dates. Conveniently before the ability to completely track in the way that we can now. So, they would get sued if
I feel
he
like
reels.
I don't need to know whether it was real or not.
I do.
What you do. That's our difference.
Immediately.
I'm kind of like, I kind of hope that maybe it's real, because I like that it was a well-told, well-structured thing. But and
I will
also,
listen to future episodes. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I don't like true crime. I don't listen to true crime. No, I don't listen to any true crime. I've done enough true crime. I've seen enough of the worst of humanity. I don't actually need to listen to that. It's not entertainment for me. But the parasocial relationship, and because it was recommended by somebody I like, I listen to it. When it goes on Netflix as a series, because it's got to, that's what it's been set up for. That's what it sounds like for me. And they're both screenwriters.
Yeah.
You know, like, come on, you've just written a brilliant story and I'm here for it and well done. Like, seriously.
With a journalist.
With a journalist.
It just so neatly fit into the journalist's wheelhouse as well, with the addiction stuff.
Yeah.
So I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I'm willing to admit it might not be real.
Thank you.
They give a load of validation.
All right, so I have got some listener questions. Now, we did have quite a number. I think almost every listener must have sent one in. So thank you all so much for that. Remember, all questions come to fthenfish@gmail.com. But I'm going to read them through, and we've obviously said our thing, but now we can have a little listen to some questions, and we can see what some answers are. What do you reckon?
Yes, please.
All right. This one is anonymous. So, hi, Callie and Jayne. I've been listening to Beth Stead, and it's made me think about how easy it is to feel deeply connected to people through podcasts and online spaces. As an AuDHD person, I sometimes struggle to tell the difference between a healthy sense of connection and getting a bit too emotionally invested. How do you know when a parasocial relationship has tipped from comforting into something that's actually not great for your brain? And this is why I thought this podcast, the Beth Stead podcast, was so interesting, was exactly because of this. And thank you, Anonymous. This hits on the head.
Yeah.
Where I think the connection is. So what do you reckon?
Honestly, I don't know. Because, I mean, we're all in that space, right? We're all in that brain of, how do you know? And you just want to be significant, and you just want to feel that connection. You need the relationship and the community. I would say if you feel like it's more one-sided, where you are hearing lots about that person and you know a lot about them, but it's not happening in return, they don't know about you, they're not asking you questions, I would say that that's probably the tipping point between a healthy parasocial relationship where you can listen to someone and go, oh, this is great and I feel good listening to it and it boosts my soul, or I feel lonely because that person is not there for me. I think potentially that's how I would see it. Callie?
Yeah. It's weird, right? Because sometimes I think about this. People feel the same way sometimes about mentors and, people in positions of leadership in an organization. Can I ask somebody to be a mentor for me? Or is it okay if I ask them this question or just tell them that I thought what they did was really cool, right? And I think it's when you develop an expectation. I think if you develop expectations or any form of dependency on their response or on their having some form of getting back to you, I think that's where it's not good for your brain. Because if you're getting from any relationship, whether it's parasocial or not, if you are constantly wanting or constantly feeling hurt or upset by a lack of interaction or by the interaction not being adequate to what you want, to me, that's when it's something that's not actually good for your brain. And, it's similar in things like dating, especially for ADHD, right? Like, when you have ADHDers and it's like, am I dating someone, or if I'm in a new friendship or new things at work, and is it a dopamine from, am I getting a massive dopamine hit from this? And there is, right? When somebody responds that you're not expecting to respond, like when, the Shameless Girls responded, and I was just like, they've responded. How amazing. And she responded straight away. What fun. I then went back and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then I went back a third time and I was like, oh, am I going too far here? But I just went back to say, I'm so sorry. I'm pretty sure it was John McNally. And that was it. I didn't expect any more responses than that first one. And I'm not hurt by them not responding.
And I think if it's a good point to talk about relationships in real life as a comparison, potentially. If you feel like you can talk to that person and say, hey, I'm not getting what I need out of this relationship, and that is something that they're receptive to and they want to work on it, then you have that equal meeting of minds and connection and community, whatever, rather than if you say, I'm not getting what I need, and they just go, this is weird and I'm not the person for you, or they back away or whatever, then you're knowing that's a very strong indicator that it's not going to be the same relationship.
Absolutely. I think how you feel. Yeah. If you feel a bit yuck, then it's not good. Trust your gut. Like with AuDHD, I truly believe that your ability to sense patterns, rhythms, rejection, etc. is over-honed. And there is always the need for us to say, hang on, is this RSD or is it real? We could make a song out of that. Is it RSD or is it real? You can tell why I'm not the songwriter, right? But yeah, so if always ask that question. But if you find yourself legitimately going, well, you know what? They don't get to dictate the terms. You actually get to say, yeah, okay, this is not for me. This actually isn't working enough for me, so I'm going to pull away. So hopefully, Anonymous, that has answered your question.
And that's the benefit of a parasocial relationship. You can pull away. You just go, I don't want to listen to that anymore. It's not healthy for me.
Yeah. All right, next question. You ready? So this next one is from Andreas. So they say, hey, legends, listening to Beth Stead has made me wonder whether neurodivergent people can be more vulnerable to getting pulled into intense online dynamics. Not because we're naive, but because pattern recognition, strong interests, loneliness and wanting real connection can all hit a bit harder. Is that a thing? And how do you protect yourself without becoming totally shut off from people? P.S. I'm not trying to engage in a parasocial relationship with you by asking this question, but you did ask us to send them in, and so I've listened, and anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. Oh, hard relay, Andreas. I think that's how I finish most emails and messages.
In my brain, definitely.
Agree. I think we've actually talked about this one a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like when someone does really connect on something, if you've got a really niche special interest, right, and somebody is not, they're like, yeah, tell me about it. I want to hear about it. I love hearing about people's things. And actually, I have been probably a bit bad with this. I've had a number of relationships throughout life because I've been a personal trainer, through my podcast, through the social media, through everything else. So I've had people where I genuinely do care. I genuinely, I mean it. I find it impossible to lie, like almost all AuDHDers. And I really do care. There is a big difference between me really caring and wanting to hear your story and having a little bit of back and forth and then being able to sustain an ongoing relationship. Yeah. Big difference, right? And I struggle all the time because I'm like, I don't want to hurt anyone. And when you give me the absolute generosity of sharing your story with me, I am so grateful. They often make me teary because of how much people have trusted me with those stories, right? And I love them. And I genuinely will follow up sometimes and be like, hey, you know, you had this thing, how did that job interview go, or whatever, right? And I do things like that. But I can barely maintain my existing relationships because, you know, my friendships and stuff, because I just don't have time and I'm, you know, constantly at capacity, and I've got a large family now, and, you know, all of that type of thing. And so I then get upset because I don't want to hurt people, and then I'm like, oh my God, and I'm doing the worst thing and I'm the worst. And yeah, so yeah.
I think I will speak for myself, not all neurodivergent people here when I say this, but I fall hard and fast in relationships, either romantic or friendship or not.
Yep.
And I can see how in this podcast there were points where the people that were writing into the podcast hosts were saying things about their parents had died, and the host whose parents had died felt that intense connection and felt that they knew and what that person was feeling. They felt seen, they felt included. I can see how that could happen to a neurodivergent person, and I could see how that might potentially happen more easily than with non-neurodivergent people. I hate using the word neurotypical, so I'm just going to say other people. Neuronormative people. So I can see how it could happen. I definitely have moments where I go, this person's awesome, and I feel connected to them and I feel seen and this is great. And then the spark can fall really quickly. So yeah, I can see how we could be more susceptible to it. We could be potentially more vulnerable to it. And I've grown pretty thick walls because of that. Yeah. I'm like you with my friendships and my relationships. It's very hard at this age with so much going on. And I need a lot of downtime to recover at the moment. So I feel like it's really hard to maintain relationships. And something like this means that if someone comes along and they're taking my attention and my love and I am really excited about it or whatever, it's very hard and I get very vulnerable around it, and then other things drop and then it all becomes toxic and out of balance. And I can definitely see that that's a thing for neurodivergent people. So Andreas, we feel you, we see you. Please really keep talking. Don't end your email.
Yeah, and look, when you asked about the protecting without becoming totally shut off, I think that's a really critical balance. And, you know, find your crew, as it were. You know, like if you're doing all of the work, then that's probably not your people. And you have to address each one. I know as AuDHDers, we love a good rule, but, you know, you have to address each one on a case-by-case basis, right? You can't kind of go into it saying, right, well, I'm going to give them 3 attempts and it's going to get to this. And if they do this, then they're done. I think if you do that, you'll find everyone gets done. Yeah. You will eventually cut everyone off. So, you know, find the people. So Jayne, we fell hard and fast in friendship with each other, right? Like we really did. We had a difficult conversation this morning in a way about some other things related to some of the business work that we do. And I felt totally safe being able to say to you, hey, I reckon I misjudged this. I reckon that I, in trying to protect your time, effectively cut you out of something that I shouldn't have. And I'm really sorry about that, right? I think if you can have a conversation like that, that could very well be, oh, hey, I feel like I'm putting a bit more effort into this. It's totally okay if I'm seeing this as more than it is with someone. If you can't really have that relationship that conversation, and I don't mean that's going to be easy, having a conversation that is adjacent to that, the conversation where you can say, oh, hey, I think you might be a little bit busy, so I'll just give me a shout when you're ready or whatever. If you feel that you can't even do that because, and here's the important thing, because if you do, they won't want to be your friend anymore. They're not your friend.
Yeah.
If you can't say
100%.
something tough, that balance is. So it's the same in friendships, and we don't say this enough. Friendships are just like romantic relationships in so many ways. But, you know, there's the whole thing. I don't know if you can see my hands, but for those of you watching on YouTube, I've got my hands up, right? And they're equal. They're in the middle. All it takes is 2%. I think the Gottmans say it's like 2%, probably ends up not being the Gottmans now I've said that, but one of the relationship psychologists, that if you're both given 50 or even 49, 51, and that changes. You know, sometimes they're given 51, you're given 49, sometimes the other way around, right? If there is a consistent period where they are given 48 and you're given 52, you're going to go to that and try and get more, and they're going to pull back. And you're going to try and get more, and they're going to pull back because they're going to feel smothered, right? If they don't want to be there. If you go there and you say, oh, hey, I'm feeling a bit 52 here. And they're like, shit, you're so right. Sorry, let me come back to 49. Or let me come back to 50. You know, that is actually, that to me, that was so powerful for me the first time I heard that in a relationship therapy session, when they were like, you know, because then you feel when you're the person giving 48, you're like, oh my God, like when is enough going to be enough? You know, and if you're the person constantly giving 52, it's like, oh, why do I feel like I'm constantly chasing?
Yeah.
And when you're in that dynamic, there's a power imbalance. You can't have proper relationship in a power imbalance.
Do you mean, sorry, just to clarify, do you mean like 52% of effort into the relationship?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying.
Got
Yeah.
you.
So it's all about effort. Yeah.
Wow. And I think just one last thought on this. If you know the person and your values align, regardless of what happens, like if we use that conversation this morning, for example, I think my response to you was, I'm okay. I'm totally okay. I know that you meant everything with good intentions and you're a beautiful person.
Yes, that is exactly what you said. Yes.
Yeah, cool. So I think if your values align with the person that you have a relationship with and you know that their intentions are good and you can have a difficult conversation, knowing that the person is willing to meet you there to talk about it, then you can let your walls drop a bit and you can, you know, actually know that it's a true relationship, not one where it's contingent upon you doing exactly as they say or something like that.
Yes, that is a perfect way to put it. Amazing. All right. So, Anders, hopefully that helps. All right. Now I've got a conspiracy theory.
Do you mean Andreas?
Oh, I did say Anders, didn't I? Oh,
are we in Beth's dead?
Oh, how very meta of us. Oh, actually, what's the word? Not the major. What's it called? Remember that movie? How very I can't remember what it was called, you know?
With Leo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio, yeah.
DiCaprio.
Sorry. Decapitated.
I keep wanting to say incest. That's not it. Inception.
Inception. How very Inception of us. Yes. All right. So, conspiracy theory here. Now, this one is from Rebecca. And Rebecca says, respectfully, I have now appointed myself lead investigator from my lounge room. I have no qualifications, several strong opinions, and a conspiracy board in my head. Beth's dead has me fully convinced that every tiny detail means something, and I will not be taking questions at this time. And then she says, look, I'm just saying, I just don't trust how calm everyone is. There is no way this is all a coincidence. I've got red string out. I've paused the podcast 14 times. At this point, I'm convinced at least 3 people are lying, 2 people are hiding something, and the dog knows more than everyone else. I think Rebecca agrees with me. I don't know.
Rebecca's on your side.
I think so. So, yeah. So what do you reckon, listeners? Am I right? Is Jayne right? Or are you in Jayne's camp and you're like, I don't actually need to know. This was just brilliant fun anyway.
No, it was frustrating fun. I got frustrated by it.
Yeah, it was frustrating. I did find myself, so I ended up cleaning out, like doing the big vacuum in my car while I was listening to the final couple of episodes. And every time they'd say something, they'd go, look, I know this sounds funny. I'm like, because it's lies. I was yelling back at the podcast.
How's that parasocial relationship going?
Anyway. Look, well, I don't know. I think we could be done. What do you think? That was our deep dive on the Beth's Dead podcast.
I think we might have
something
to
a little different.
My husband, DJ Beach, just walked in the door So you might have
hey,
heard that in the
DJ.
background. You're just going home from
Lovely.
work.
Amazing. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed something a little bit different with us today, that deep dive into the Beth Stead podcast and why it's relevant to neurodivergence and what are some of the similar sort of patterns that we are able to see and some of the things that we might feel from that parasocial explanation.
And how our brains differ on needing to know whether or not all the details are correct and if it's true.
Everything. I've ever told you I got kicked out of Sunday school because I needed to know and I wasn't prepared to accept that. Totally got kicked out of Sunday school because I was like, but why though? But how did that happen though? Tell me everything. And of course they can't. In Sunday school, there is no age appropriate way of saying that actually the whole point is faith. And I was like, no. Just no, I need the detail. I need the receipts. I need the facts. Yeah.
I got kicked out of grade 4 because of that. I put in a special class.
Really?
Because I was too curious and asked too many questions.
How dare
and
you?
I needed different classwork. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. Oh my God. How did they not know, Jane? How did they not?
They did know. I found out my parents did know. They just didn't do anything about my neurodivergence because they were like, meh, she's not a problem. She's good at school. Her brother's more in need of things.
Oh my God, we need to go into that. Let's put a pin in that. We are going to do a future episode on that if you are so inclined.
Yeah, let's do it.
Amazing. In the meantime, thank you all so much for listening to this definitely not 30-minute podcast. And we will be in touch with you next time. Remember, fthemfish@gmail.com or follow us on all of the places, fthemfish_ or colon, depending on what the platform allowed, AuDHD for Grownups. We will see you next time.
See you later, besties.
It's Callie and friends, too cool, Neurokin and sharing good neurodivergent things. They be clever and quick with a fair bit of sergeant sidestepping, but a step in the right direction, a slight autistic correction. It's more about interception, interpretation, and fuck, they give a load of validation.